Good morning, 13 May 2020. We've got a quick article to go through, and we're going to dissect some reporting done by Bloomberg. We've got House Democrats proposing a $3 trillion virus relief bill. Aid to state and local governments, direct cash payments, expanded unemployment, food stamp spending, progressive priorities like voting by mail, and some other issues. The U.S. Postal Service, that's a different issue. House GOP leader, Mr. McCarthy, condemned the bill, which was written without Republican input. Our president last week, no rush to get another aid package. And in April, we lost another 20 million jobs. Unemployment rate will hit 20%, according to current economic advisors. Key provisions: $1 trillion in aid for state and local governments. $500 billion would be targeted to states, $375 billion to localities, $20 billion to tribal governments, and $20 to territories. $90 billion to states through education grants, which is already a huge amount of funding flowing through education grants and research grants to universities. Okay, $1,200 in cash payments for individuals, same as last time. Cost about almost $600 billion, and your dependents can qualify even if they're up to 24 years old. Now, this is very similar to the education culture, where kids, they're considered children up until the age of 24. That's why in New York here, they just raised the smoking age to 21. Okay, let's look at this. $200 billion to fund hazard pay for essential workers. We go, that's Italy, northern Italy. I jumped out several times. The nice C-130 over here. Special pay, hazardous duty pay for imminent danger, $375 a month. And that is for being in combat, for actually being a uniformed soldier in combat. You're going to have a $375 a month raise. It breaks down to just a little over $10 a day extra for engaging enemies and for being engaged by enemies of the United States of America. Just to give you some idea of where we should probably be for this hazard pay. Now we've got the House bill would not add any funding to the Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses. The loans to nonprofits and professional organizations, Chamber of Commerce and others. So they're stacking up subsidies at your expense to float exclusive elite industry that is already sheltered and preferred in tax handouts. So they're just going to go ahead and forget about employees of small business with the paycheck protection. And they're going to just give a bunch of money away to nonprofits that are already not paying their taxes. Okay. See, at least 25% of remaining funds for businesses with 10 or fewer employees. So they're throwing small business dogs some scraps off the table. This is not meant to stabilize small business in this country. It's not going to help small business. 25% is practically nothing. And then we've got another 25% for nonprofits. So we're back to here. back to the stacking up subsidies on your dime. Additional $10 billion in grants through separate SBA economic injury disaster loan programs. We've already seen how the SBA is completely incompetent and derelict to administer loans to small business. They make multi-million-dollar loans. Over 50% of their portfolios are loans over $1 million, including the most flowing into 90210 zip code, as reported by openthebooks.com in their reports. I recommend you go to openthebooks.com and check out some of their reports. All right, give employers a credit up to $1,200 per employee per quarter. Now, the average wages for American workers is less than $48,000 per year. Right here. Service occupation, 30,000. These are the people that have lost their jobs. Of the service occupations. Professional occupations are over double that on average. Median wage in the United States in the first quarter of 2019, $47,000. So they're creating a tax credit of $48,000 a year, and it's above the median wage in America. Ridiculous. Okay, would allow companies to deduct payroll, rent, and other costs that the Paycheck Protection loans covered. The IRS ruled those expenses are not deductible if the loan is forgiven. So what the current legislation for $3 trillion would do would be to create a double dip for the winners already picked. So we're letting the favorite businesses that are already been given the greatest handouts in American history, while real entrepreneurs and Americans were left out in the cold and thrown our scraps as dogs. The dogs that they see us as, the elites see us as dogs, as nothing but property for them to throw scraps to. So they're going to letting the favorite businesses, the picked winners, double dip to get twice the benefits. So they're not only going to be able to forgive their loans and get this free tax money from you, but they'll be able to also deduct those loans off of their taxes. Ridiculous. Now we've got suspend the cap on state and local tax or SALT deductions for 2 years. Now, this is Democrats, particularly from high tax states like New York, New Jersey, California, those places, want to do this because it would only help the wealthy, okay? Now, partially repealed tax breaks included in the last rescue plan to generate a refund from the Internal Revenue Service, and this is a giveaway to corporations and the wealthy. So here we go. Here's Democrats on one side, Republicans on the other side, and it's an example of both parties catering to the wealthy, same trough, different ends of the elite establishment in this country, while you are excluded from any political participation. From any sort of say in what's going on. Let's see, $75 billion for virus testing and contract tracing. Let's go. It's time for a privacy update, America. All these companies, the search warrants, we're no longer going to have any of the protections under the amendments of the Constitution, which are full force portions of the Constitution and enforceable as the law of the land. Now, we'll tell you this. No soldier is more fierce than when surrounded. No enemy more bold than when assuming victory. We the people The response should be nuts. Americans hold strong views about privacy in everyday life. This is our data. This is where contact tracing would utilize your technology, your personal technology, to follow you around and enforce any other thing that's a slippery slope that will come down the line. Currently, we're having requests for blood tests being done in different places, as well as removal of children from homes potentially. There's a lot of stuff being floated around that's very dangerous. You look at this chart here. Okay, so percentage of adults who agree, who say being in control of who can get info about you is very important. The majority, 74%. This is also very close to the polling that shows that a candidate Smith, somebody that actually enforced the rule of law and represented the people and gave the people access to influence the government's conduct and the legal initiatives and enforcement, could win a massive majority of the vote in the presidential and state elections. Somewhat important, 19%. Once we get to there, you've got a 93% agreement that this is an important issue, that you should be able to control who can get info about you. Okay. Americans do care about privacy rights. Our representatives do not care about your privacy rights. They do not. They do not care. They do not care at all. Let's look at a comparison of the European Union and the United States laws on privacy. Privacy laws change with each administration in the United States. Privacy laws have less turnover when administrations change because the member states aren't as polarized as the U.S. I don't know if that's exactly why. I don't have that circled for a reason. They're just kind of throwing an opinion in there like it's fact. But nevertheless, it seems to be that European Union privacy laws have a little bit more resiliency to political personality changes. For whatever reason, I wouldn't believe they're malark. Next, individuals have little ownership over their online data, which allows large businesses to monetize, should be two here, to monetize consumer behavior and habits. Okay? EU laws respect private and family life. That's why the family unit is a little bit stronger and you have less drug activity happening in the European Union because children are not treated like a burden, and allow citizens to delete their data. So you can get your data off of the online platforms and big tech companies. Privacy laws are often messy combinations of public regulation, private self-regulation, and legislation, which varies by the state. Depending on where you're at, it's going to be different. What does this mean? Just like it said, number 2, industry is allowed to create participation regulation of its own with zero regard for the rule of law or citizens' rights. So what you have now is if you want to participate digitally in this world, which is basically a must if you are going to be an entrepreneur or a citizen doing anything, then you're subject to a body of regulations that is created privately with zero regard for the rule of law or citizens' rights. So large companies dictate exactly what you must do in order to participate online. Enforcement is by FCC, FTC, and HIPAA. This is an important factor here. HIPAA is taken pretty seriously. And there's been some major violations of that based in the tech industry, derelict conduct. Oh yeah, so this, zero regard for the rule of law and citizens' rights. Thanks, Congress. Great work. Not, this is sarcasm. You're doing a wretched job of making sure that we have the only thing that's important, the rule of law, citizens' rights, the Constitution. That is it. We don't need anything else. Just the Constitution. That is it. And the way this Constitution is currently being treated, ignored, it's not even being treated. These people have lost all sight of how to conduct a just government. They've lost all sight of any respect or value of the American people. This is all evidenced in their conduct. They are burning these documents right now. These people do not care. They do not care about your quality of life, your access to justice, what the Constitution says. None of that matters anymore. This is what Congress has done. Next, companies can keep data indefinitely, depending on their own terms of service, or back to industry is allowed to create participation regulation of its own with zero regard for the rule of law or citizens' rights. Companies monetize private data to manipulate consumption, to control what you spend your money on and your time doing. Congress just wants a piece of the pie. That's it. That's all it is. They just want in on it. They don't care if it's being done. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. George Carlin. Pervasive information technology and relevance of data protection. We can see on this chart as different companies have come into the market and established themselves, and different products have come into the market and established themselves as significant participants in that market for people's access to the market of social interaction, to commercial access. Well, you see how these companies have driven up the relevance of data protection. Currently, all these data protection actions are being undermined by cooperation between private industry and public agencies. And that is the definition of fascism, if you're interested to know. That is the definition of fascism. Now, what I'd really like to do is be able to show you exactly a statistical analysis and a graph of privacy violations. Anybody that's watching this that could put this type of thing together, it's not really my specialty, and I can't find anything. I spent over an hour and a half today trying to find statistical representation in a graph of past violations. The closest I could get is the $5 billion FTC versus Facebook, and then there's the little guys over here, like Equifax for their data breach, when they let people just have all of your credit history. Millions of people's credit history went out, and you can see there's a couple more. We've got Facebook, Google, FTC versus Facebook. This is what comes up. A bunch of meme-ish type crap with no statistical data. The closest you can get the charts is public opinion. Okay, enforcement actions by sector. I can't get the amounts. You can get a percentage breakdown of actions taken. And technology is only 7%. You can see the big thing, manufacturing, chemicals, 21. Number 1, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, and medical devices. So this is actions done by the FTC, fiscal year 13 to 17, what they spent their time working on. Now, we've got Democrats using a wide-ranging package to reach beyond the immediate response to the pandemic. A safe harbor provision for banks, provide services to cannabis companies. Now, banks would be shielded from prosecution under federal drug law for serving the now cash-based sector in states where cannabis trade is legal. Okay, so they're going to provide a legal drug money laundering service. They're going to let the banks break federal law. They're not even going to change the federal laws. They're just going to open up a loophole. This is unconstitutional. You can't create a law that abrogates another law unless it's an amendment, like they did to get rid of the Prohibition Amendment. This is the cartels and syndicates' wet dream. I mean, it really is. And here's where we can see that banks are already running amok as predators persecuting American citizens. After the financial global crisis in 2008, the collapse, we had the Financial Conduct Authority levying fines for antitrust violations and things like that. And now we can see that they're just flatlined. There is no enforcement going on for banks that are violating the laws of the United States and violating the constitutional rights of the American citizens. In fact, we see that our leaders actually are willing to set up illegal legal protections that should not be enforced. But, you know, when you got the money, you can do anything you want. You can do anything you want to the American citizen, and nobody's going to say a damn thing about it. And I am just appalled. I am appalled at what this legislation says, what it's attempting to do, what has been done so far. And I want to know what's going to happen with this $200 billion fund. Are these people going to be compensated more than our soldiers? Are they going to be compensated more than our soldiers? Let's take a look real quick at here. These tax shelters. So these are corporations who generated billions in profits. This is in millions of dollars here for a 3-year total between 8 and 10. They got paid back 61% of what they had, a negative 61% tax rate. Let's look at the big winners. Big winners, Wells Fargo, which we would see if you go ahead and look at the CCP video, you'll see the chart there where they were given the greatest fines. Well, at the same exact time, be given some huge tax shelters. So they were able to generate almost $50 billion in profits. And they were paid by the government to be in business. $681 million they got paid to be in business on your tax dollar. There's negative tax rates here. Same, Verizon Communications. Big winner. $32 billion in profits for the 3-year time period, and they got paid $951 billion they got paid to be in business. General Electric, big winner as far as dollar amount from the feds. They got paid $4 billion to be in business while denying any tax liability or contribution to the sustainment of this nation's administrations and agencies. When we get down near the bottom, here's Honeywell. Recently in the news, they were paid $34 million to be in business for the same 3-year period. Currently, making a lot of masks. We've got ExxonMobil, United Technologies, Yahoo, and IBM. So they paid some taxes. Look at ExxonMobil, $2 billion in taxes during this time period. This is during the Obama administration when there was an assault on the U.S. gas industry in order to boost the Saudi Arabia and Middle Eastern oil production capabilities to undermine American business. So here's their taxes paid in. IBM paid in $1 billion. $145 million from Yahoo, $791 million from United Technologies. So I don't know who Jeff is. Somebody else had made this already. So way to go, Jeff, though. Hey, you got a negative 61% federal tax rate. You somehow managed to have General Electric being compensated $4 billion, $4,737 million for being in business in this country, of your tax dollars going to them. Unbelievable. It's just so absolutely disgustingly corrupt and pathetic. Everywhere you look, our leaders are denying their obligations to the people they represent. This has become nothing but an absolutely corrupted representative agency, completely broken and demolished. Everything that should be functioning in this country, completely demolished it. But between the foreign spending and everything else, it is beyond anything that I ever could have imagined. And the legislative initiatives currently being put out there are so disgusting and detestable that we should be demanding access to the influence of our representatives that we are due, that we deserve. There's no question they have abrogated their authority by betraying this country. This is treason, in my opinion. I believe I'm right. But it won't last for long, I don't believe. We'll see how things are going to go in the near future. Thank you. Best of luck.